Hey up YouTube, welcome back to another video with Rams fan YT. It feels like ages since I've done a history of your club, but it's only been a week. But yes, we are still doing them during the close season. Although of course it'll be slightly messed up now, the sort of teams, because we'll have to finish season 2 of Championship, which will be this season. Then next season it'll be very messy, but I will sort that out. You do not need to worry about that. But today we will be looking at the history of this Yorkshire club of Huddersfield Town. Very successful during the 30s and stuff. Soon find out about that. Eventually, why not go straight into it? The club was founded in 1908. And the founders actually bought a site on Leeds Road for £500, and they joined the North Eastern League. The following season, they joined the Midland Football League, although I always get confused why teams from Yorkshire join that league, in order to reduce travel costs. In an effort to gain entry into the Football League, the club invited Scottish architect, a famous architect, mind you, Archibald Leach, incredible, architected thousands of stadiums, to reconstruct the Leeds Road Stadium, and a 4,000-seat stand was to be constructed, and terracing was also planned to provide an overall capacity of 34,000. After the plans went through, Huddersfield directors successfully applied to become members of the Football League in 1910, and the development of Leeds Road began immediately. However, the development costs were too high, and attendances sunk below 7,000. Huddersfield actually went into liquidation in 1912, after which a new limited company was formed to take over the club's assets. Huddersfield Town were reportedly £25,000 in debt in 1919, and attendances fell to around about 3,000. Chairman John Hilton Crowther planned to merge Town with the newly formed Leeds United, and to relocate to Leeds. The reports galvanised supporters to start fundraising to stave off the move. Of course, you don't really want to merge with your arch rival, do you? Shares of £1 had been released, and converting the club into a public ownership. After a month of acquiring funds and negotiations, the club stayed in Huddersfield. The team then reached the 1920 FA Cup final and won promotion to the First Division for the first time. During their first season in the top flight, former Leeds City manager Herbert Chapman was brought in after Huddersfield helped him overturn his ban. We don't talk about that though. As the new assistant to Ambrose Langley. Chapman eventually replaced Langley in March 1921. And led the team to a 17th place finish. In the summer of 1921, playmaker Clem Stevenson and the club's all-time top goalscorer George Brown were acquired. Chapman's tactics were based upon the principles of a strong defence and a fast counter-attacking response, with a focus on quick, short passing and mazy runs from his wingers. He is regarded as the first manager to successfully employ the counter-attack. Other progressive ideas included a disciplined fitness regime for the players and the practice of reserve and youth teams playing the same style as the senior team. He employed a wide-ranging scouting network to find the right players for his tactical system. This led to the team winning their first major honour, the FA Cup, after Preston North End were beaten 1-0 in the 1922 FA Cup final. Huddersfield also won the 1922 Charity Shield, where they defeated Liverpool 1-0. Town finished in third place in 1922-23, before winning their first ever First Division Championship in 1923-24. The team fought off Cardiff City, although it was by the narrowest of margins. They both finished on 57 points, but Huddersfield won it by a difference of 0.024 in goal average, which is ridiculously close. It's so. Now, that's 0.02 of a goal, pretty much. That's just insane. I mean, imagine if that was in system today, the goal average. And I'm surprised not many people actually talk about it as one of the greatest title races of all time. probably because it's quite past of people's lifespan now. Huddersfield then won 3-0 against Nottingham Forest in the last match of that season, and Cardiff only managed to draw 0-0 at Birmingham City, whereby they actually missed a penalty. The team retained their first division title in 1924-25 after only one loss in the last 27 league matches. Huddersfield only conceded 28 goals and never conceded more than 2 per game. That's quite ridiculous, actually. This was actually the first team ever to accomplish this feat. Another notable feat was achieved in October 1924, as Billy Smith became the first player in history to score directly from a corner. That's really hard to do. After winning successive league titles, Chapman actually left for Arsenal, which offered to double his wages and attracted larger crowds than Huddersfield. In came Cecil Potter as his successor. Under Potter, Town became the first club actually to win 3 successive English League titles in 1925-26. The team came close to winning a 4th consecutive title the following season, but only won one of their last 7 matches, and thus handed the title to Newcastle United. Town won the wrong double in the 1927-28 season, when they finished runners-up in both the league and lost the FA Cup final. Legend of just nearlies there, really. In March 1928, an international match between England and Scotland featured 5 Town players of Tom Wilson, Bob Kelly, Billy Smith and Roy Goodall started for England, while Alex Jackson played for Scotland. Jackson, unfortunately, scored a hat-trick against his other teammates, as Scotland, later were nicknamed the Wembley Wizards, defeated England 5-1. Huddersfield's ageing squad was not adequately replaced, however, and a deterioration of their league position did indeed follow. Although they finished up as runners-up in 1933-34, and 2 more FA Cup finals were reached under the new manager Clem Stevenson, which I mentioned earlier. Town were defeated in 1930 by Chapman's Arsenal. That's a bit of a wound to take, isn't it? And in 1938, they lost to Preston North End after extra time, which was the first FA Cup final to be broadcasted on television. A record home attendance of 67,037 was achieved in 1932 during an FA Cup 6th round tie against Arsenal. Town were relegated for the first time in the 1951-52 season, with Stockport County manager Andy Beattie being appointed in April 1952. And he managed Stockport and Huddersfield in 3 divisions in the same month. He also had 2 horseshoes nailed to his office wall for luck. Don't know how that provides luck, but you do you. The team finished second in the 2nd division in 1952-53 and made an immediate return. They finished in 3rd place in their first season back in the top flight, but BT resigned in November of 1956, with the legendary Bill Shankly succeeding him. In December 1957, the team led 5-1 with 30 minutes remaining against Charlton Athletic. However, they chucked it away and lost 7-6. That is ridiculous, but the most ridiculous comeback, I think, of all time, really. Shankly left in December 1959 to manage Liverpool. Floodlights were installed at Leeds Road in 1961, which were financed by the British record transfer fee of £55,000 of Dennis Law to Manchester City. And they actually also became known as the Dennis Law Lights. Huddersfield continued to play in the 2nd tier during the 1960s, whereby they reached the semi-final of the League Cup in 1967-68, but lost an aggregate to Arsenal. In 1969, the club adopted the nickname the Terriers, and they then won the 2nd division in 1969-70 season under the guidance of Ian Greaves. The team stayed up in their 3rd season back in the 1st tier, but were relegated in 1971-72, which was followed by another relegation to the 3rd division for the first time the season after. Huddersfield were then relegated to the 4th division for for the first time in 1974-75. Former Town manager Tom Johnston returned to the club as a general manager in 1975. The club later returned to all blue shirts that he had introduced in the mid-1960s. Johnston replaced Bobby Collins as manager in December 1975. During the 1976-77 season, John Haselden became the manager, with Johnston returning to his previous role. This, however, did not last, as Johnston demoted Haselden in September 1977 and gave himself the job. Typical, right? He managed Town to their lowest ever league position of 11th at the end of the 1977-78 season. A recovery did start, though, under the management of Mick Buxton, who was appointed in 1978. Huddersfield won the 4th Division in 1979-80 season, scoring 101 goals in the process. Ridiculous amount of goals to be scored. Town finished just outside the promotion places the following season, and the team won promotion to the 2nd Division in 1982-83 by a 3rd place finish. Due to Huddersfield languishing at the bottom of the division, declining home attendances, and resulting financial pressure, Buxton was sacked in December 1986. Steve Smith succeeded him and became the first permanent manager in the club's club history to hail from Huddersfield. The team stayed up by 3 points that season, but were relegated back to the 3rd tier in 1987-88. Town only won 6 matches. They conceded 100 goals, including a 10-1 loss against Manchester City. Huddersfield reached the 1991-92 3rd Division playoffs, but lost the semi-final against Peterborough United by an aggregate score of 4-3. The team avoided relegation to the 4th Division in 1992-93, following a run of only 3 defeats in their last 17 games, to finish in 15th place. Manager Neil Warnock took over from Ian Ross for the 1993-94 season, and Town actually reached the 1994 Football League Trophy final, but they lost against Swansea City on penalties. Huddersfield Town played their final match at Leeds Road on the 30th of April 1994, beating Blackpool 2-1, which was watched by a near-capacity crowd of 16,195. They moved into the new Kirklees Stadium for the 1994-95 season. During the first season at the new stadium, Huddersfield were promoted to the 2nd tier by the playoffs after a 2-1 win against Bristol Rovers at Wembley. Warnock left the club that summer and was replaced by Brian Horton, who guided the Town to an 8th place finish the following season. Horton was sacked in October 1997, with Huddersfield without a win in the first 9 games. Former Huddersfield player Peter Jackson was given the job. He only scored 1 point in Jackson's first 5 games, but Huddersfield have finally won in their 15th match by beating Stoke City at 3-1. Unbeaten runs mixed with winless runs followed, and Town managed to stay up by a 16th place finish. In January 1999, the club was bought by local businessman Barry Rubery, who targeted to reach the Premier League. Steve Bruce succeeded Jackson in May 1999, with Huddersfield topping the table in December. But their form plummeted after the striker Marcus Stewart was sold in the January transfer window to First Division rivals Ipswich Town. They finished the season in 8th place, which was just outside the playoffs. Bruce was sacked in October 2000, and Rubery accused Bruce of wasting £3 million, arguing that the money would have been spent more wisely by a more experienced manager with an out-and ego to feed. He was replaced by Lou Macari, who was unable to halt the slide as relegation to the 3rd tier followed at the end of the season. Huddersfield reached the playoffs in 2001-2, but lost 2-1 to Brentford in the semi-final. Around this time, the club had debts of £20 million, following the relegation and the collapse of ITV Digital, which affected lots of clubs. The players went months without being paid, and manager Mick Wadsworth was meant to be sacked in January 2003, but he was reinstated because the club didn't have enough money to pay off him. Wadsworth was eventually sacked, though, in March and replaced by Mel Machin, who oversaw relegation to the 4th tier. The club was put into administration, but Ken Davey bought the club in the summer of 2003 and rescued Town from liquidation. Manager Peter Jackson only had 4 senior players on the books before the beginning of the 2003-04 season, after which many youngsters from the academy setup were added. Huddersfield finished in a surprising 4th place and defeated Mansfield Town in the playoff final to return to the 3rd tier. The team reached the playoffs in 2005-06, but were eliminated by Barnsley in the semi-final, after further seasons in League One followed. Dean Hoyle took over as chairman and majority shareholder of the club in June 2009. Town reached the playoffs in 2009-10 under the manager of Lee Clark, but lost against Millwall in the semi-final. The team again qualified for the playoffs the following season. However, Peterborough United this time were victorious in the final. Huddersfield set a Football League record of 43 matches unbeaten. This is not including the playoff matches, which was previously set by Nottingham Forest in November 2011. Clark was sacked in February 2012 following a 1-0 home defeat to Sheffield United, as was replaced by former Leeds United manager Simon Grayson. He led Town to the playoff final against Sheffield United. The game finished 0-0 after extra time before Huddersfield were victorious after 22 penalties in an 8-7 result. Grayson was sacked in January 2013 and was succeeded by Mark Robbins, he's now at Coventry City, isn't he? Huddersfield avoided relegation on the last day after a draw with Barnsley. German Borussia Dortmund's reserves coach David Wagner became the first person born outside the British Isles to manage the club in November 2015. He implemented the gegenpressing style of play. In 2016-17, Town finished 5th with a negative goal difference. That's amazing, and qualified for the playoffs. After defeating Sheffield Wednesday on penalties in the semi-final, they then faced Reading in the final. Another penalty shootout followed, and Huddersfield were again victorious, with promotion to the Premier League meant to return to the 1st tier for the first time since 1972. Huddersfield also became the 2nd club after Blackpool to have won all 3 divisional playoffs. The team finished 16th and stayed up on their return, but were again relegated after a 20th place finish in 2018-19. Wagner left the club by mutual consent in January 2019 and was replaced by Borussia Dortmund's reserves manager, again this time another reserve manager from that team, Janet Seward. But Town were relegated in March with 6 matches remaining. The team amassed only 3 wins and 16 points by the end of the season. Chairman Hoyle announced his departure in May 2019, selling the club to businessman Phil Hodgkinson, relinquishing the post due to poor health. Seward was replaced by Lincoln City manager Danny Cowley in September of that year, who guided the club to survival in the Championship before being sacked. Leeds United assistant coach Carlos Corberán was appointed as the club's new head coach in July 2020, although he isn't that good either. As they finished 25. Hope you all very much enjoyed that video. Please subscribe for a bit of regular footballing content and do stuff like this all the time on the channel if you're new around here. We've got my end of season reaction to my predictions. I made predictions at the middle of the beginning of season, and we'll see how well they actually were at the end. Oh no, sorry, that's not then. That's the week after. I'm going to be doing playoff predictions first because the Premier League's not finished, of course. And then we've got another History of Your Club with Luton Town, I'm inclined to say. Yeah, Luton Town. So thank you very much, and see you around.